Saltines make my mouth dry.
Is it weird if I take my shoes off?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm going to take my pants off, too.
Oh, please. Please.
Out here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's too cold for that.
It's too cold for your pants or too cold for your shoes?
I don't want things to be on camera.
Is that good?
I don't know. Is that safe?
Move a little.
Are the cameras on?
Oh, everything is
We're
live.
rolling.
Oh.
We're doing it live.
Live?
Do it live.
Doing it live.
Oh.
Caller 99.
Caller, you look at this ceviche right now. Fresh tautog, as Timothy said.
Do we have to do the
I'm
sponsors?
gonna make a whole mess of this thing.
Yeah.
That's perfect, though.
And today's podcast is brought to you by Tough Actin Tinactin.
Yeah. Tim's gout medicine. here's some for everybody.
Tim's gout medicine, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. No flare-ups in
Keep breaking the chips off in the ceviche.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear it from here.
Is this
Good.
just gonna be an ASMR of? And then after the first half hour of eating this, then
Probably.
then it'll
What
start.
do you want me to do when I start sneezing?
From the beer?
Yeah.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
So, I guess the question really starts is, are you interviewing me and Tyler and Along the Keel?
No.
Or
We're not even going to talk about the long gill. We've got some PSAs that we need to go.
oh, then please.
No.
PSA away.
No. I mean,
So who's the intro, I guess?
you.
Still our show.
I
Yeah.
got to do the intro?
Yeah.
I'll be honest,
Still our
I'm
show?
the least prepared of the four of us.
Yeah. Just recap the day, and then we can bring up to speed on
What's going on?
what's going on, and then we can riff from there. We can ask you some questions. You can ask us
boy.
some questions. This is all live, right?
This is live. So, I guess asking in the first chain of, have you seen the Austin Powers where the third line of questioning, you have to go through 3 questions in order for him to do something?
Damn.
Yeah.
That was Will Ferrell, yeah.
So, in honor of Will Ferrell and the Tautog ceviche, how is Rhode Island so far?
It's been sweet. Why do you say Tautog? Is that really how you people pronounce it up here?
What's the spelling?
Tautog. Tautog.
So did we just slow it down because we're from the South?
Yeah, I mean
And it's
naturally,
just-
right?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I just slow
To
it down
talk.
because I can't read.
We learned that last time. though.
Yeah.
Newt can't read.
It's improved,
Yeah,
but
no.
not much.
We've got them on. There's a bunch of different brain game apps and stuff. So
Hooked on phonics.
Dude, you literally took it out of my mouth.
yeah, so he's getting real good with puzzles and Wordle's helped him out with 5-letter words. But no, it's been cool. This is a place of the East Coast I've always wanted to check out, and never really had a chance to come up here. So it's been cool. It was, what better way to see it than via boat all day today.
Via the
cool.
boat.
Yeah, and it's fall time, so pumpkin spice is coming back and all the fall colors on the trees and stuff. So it was a pretty beautiful scenery today. So it's been good.
All right. Newt?
Good.
Yeah, the scenery, the cliffs and the houses and the watercolor, and just it was pretty neat. I mean, we had a perfect day on the water as far as weather-wise. So,
It was
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty badass day. I mean, I was looking at as we were kind of cleaning up the boat, and I was thinking to myself as we're coming in, it's not often do you get your buddies on a boat with amazing weather and a killer fishing session from start to finish, awesome food, all in one day.
Yeah, and you could have stopped that at, it's not often that you get your buddies on a boat in good weather.
100%.
You know,
us,
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's usually like where it starts. That's the win. Just
Right.
even we planned this trip, I don't know how many months ago, and the sheer fact that even 8 hours were looking awesome, let alone all 24 hours. And then the fishing, that just, it was a slow build this morning, but it all worked out. I mean, that was awesome. Definitely couldn't have drawn it up any better, except maybe Albies or those big bluefin you were promising us.
The big bluefin on the Penn and Shimano, the small
on the 2500.
The 25 and the 5000.
We could have backed it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The V20 with the open transom. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. What a vessel to see all of Rhode Island via water, or most of Rhode Island. It felt like I saw the whole state today.
I mean, you kind of did. Looking off to the distance, the only thing you missed was Fall River, Tiverton, and the Saconnet. Other than that, you saw pretty much everything.
We saw, I was thinking about, before we sat down, if I could recap all of what you told me today. And we saw Point Judith. We saw Newport. We saw Prudence Island.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all I
Man, I
remember.
don't remember any of that.
There's-
all I heard was, there's a lighthouse. Oh,
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse.
Which was Judith.
Point Judith, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot. We saw a lot more than just one lighthouse, but no, it was cool to hear you guys, your like knowledge of just like chiming in when we were going somewhere and pointing stuff out, historically, or just the background on the house or the property or whatever was all very impressive. And then just to Ryan's point about the coastline and stuff is, you always hear it's different up here from our coastline, and I've seen photos obviously, but seeing it in person is it's just crazy. It's a really cool, unique thing, and in our backyard essentially, in your backyard, and we had a bit of a drive, but it's cool that it's within reach. We don't have to drive across the country to California to see something like that.
Yeah, like you could still make it a weekend. Well,
Yeah.
we are making it a weekend.
Currently.
What do you think is the most different from, like, after having gone through a day here in Rhode Island? What is the most different between our coastline and your guys' coastline?
Our coastline is just houses on the water. I mean, you guys have. We have like I guess where we were today was going towards the ocean, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ours would just be beaches and beach houses, whereas you had like cliffs and
elevation for sure.
big rocks and light towers and waves hitting things, and I don't know. It seemed pretty cool compared to what we were used to. I mean, usually if we're fishing out there, then it's just fishing out front of someone's house, where I felt like we're a little more out there.
In the element,
Yeah, I mean, bigger water too. I was shocked at just the depth of water everywhere.
Yeah.
Which brings me up to, your experience with sea tow. Sea tow, the stuff that we see with boaters down by us is running aground, and it's like, I feel like everywhere we went today was at least 12 feet deep. So, like, what did you even do when you were working for sea tow?
Well, people sank a lot.
Oh. that
They
makes
hit
sense.
things.
Yeah. There were a lot of rocks.
There are rocks.
Yeah.
A lot of rocks.
A lot of waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and people didn't have their battery cables tightened down tight enough,
Yeah.
which you would think that'd be like 101.
Yeah.
Speaking of waves, how's Tiller doing?
Yeah, Tiller, how are you feeling?
Tiller's on the
Alright.
show.
Yeah.
First time on the show after producing 10 plus at this point.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So
by far.
being in front of the camera is a lot weirder than being behind it. I don't know what to say, but that's not unusual.
Are you ready to change your name to Jamie, like on Joe Rogan?
Oh. No, he's quicker than I am. I'm
You
not
guys
very
haven't
quick.
you haven't added the Google element yet, but I'm sure that's coming.
We've been talking about the equipment.
Yeah.
Make the,
We actually have.
in the moment cuts and changes, and maybe just add a mic back there at least if no one wants to look at my face. Viewership will probably go
Hey,
down for a
I'm
little
all
bit.
for it. I'm all for it. As soon as we did the qualified captain episode, I was like, we need to get Tyler involved on
Yeah.
the front end.
Yeah.
You know. No, I'm really stoked that Tyler is a part of Along the Kill, period. But then to have him actually involved in a show to kind of bring in the back end to the front end and show the behind the scenes. Like, we wouldn't be where we are now if Tyler didn't get involved, period. Like, none of what we did in Virginia Beach would have happened with any of the other episodes that we've done, with the work that we're now doing outside of Along the Kill, just the podcast. I couldn't be more thankful. And it all started with us actually around a bonfire at our friend's house, and that rest is history.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
That's sweet.
Glad you're here.
It's a little over a year ago.
Pretty
Our
much.
1 year anniversary.
Yeah,
2 months ago.
at the Eco Challenge, right?
So
Kind of.
Kind words, thank you. And
You're welcome, Tiller.
I'm appreciative of the opportunity and being able to meet
Yeah.
badass people like you guys.
Far from bad.
You talking to us?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How many fish did you hook today?
I did. I had an okay day.
Tim.
I had an okay
That was
day.
like my 4th day on the water ever, so to me, this was a badass day.
I got lucky. I got lucky for sure.
He had the Tog Master up
Yeah.
against the challenge, so
Yeah.
That's
that
true.
might change. Undefeated still.
This is true.
Yeah.
Tog Master and Striper King.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was fun. I've never caught a tog before. Never really fished for them before.
Mm-hmm. You guys have them down there.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have them. We have them. You can catch them by the bridge tunnel and then like the near shore and offshore wrecks and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that we've ever done, and I've ever really done. Ryan's done it a lot more than I have.
Yeah.
But they're delicious fish, and it was really fun to catch them. It was surprisingly easy once you kind of got the handle of the bite.
A little
Right.
nibble.
Yeah, the little nibble, but I couldn't get the big nibble for the togs. Ryan and you, Zach, were bailing over the keepers. That was pretty awesome.
Well, I only caught 3 tog the whole day, whereas you pulled in like, I don't know, 15.
Really?
Yeah,
Hey,
I
you got the
didn't
most
do too
important
well.
though. So we usually play a game: the first, the biggest, and the most.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the first fish. of
This
the
is
day,
true. This is true.
And you got the biggest tog.
Yep.
Besides mine, but we'll tell you that you got the biggest one. So you got 2 awards. And then Tim got probably the most.
And Tim crushed stripers.
And Tim caught the biggest striper. And only striper.
Yeah, that did happen. That was sweet. I didn't want to. Well, thank you for putting the extra effort into taking the long way home to try and find some striper. It was definitely something I wanted to at least see. Was a New England striper blitz,
Mm-hmm.
or just even I couldn't come up here and not try and catch one. So the fact that we found them and a few of them decided to play. I mean, it wasn't like a full-on blitz where, every cast were
Right.
pulling them in. They were definitely finicky, but yeah, it was
They
sweet.
only like Tim for some reason. So finicky is an understatement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, New England this time of year, Rhode Island this time of year is phenomenal, and the striper blitzes and the tog fishing, it's almost like the perfect time to fish because there's always an option to do something. Togging's always going to be there. Stripers and albies are going to be intermittent, but you can usually find them.
Right.
It's just going to take some effort. But you find a rock pile, you're probably going to get some black sea bass, you're probably going to get some tog, and you're going to come home with something in the freezer, So,
and some ceviche.
and some ceviche.
We had how big was that one sea bass you got?
It was right under 16 inches. So
That was
under
pretty.
keeper.
Were they in season? Are they? They're like pretty heavily regulated down by us season wise.
I want to say they are in season.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a friend of mine who runs a charter boat was like, come book now for black sea bass and something.
Gotcha.
So, I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
But
Hey, we didn't keep them, guys.
Tiller,
Oh.
we need you to Google.
Yeah, Google.
Where's the Google machine?
you got to wonder, like, Ever seen the Joe Rogan episodes where Jamie almost gets in trouble by Joe?
Yeah.
Have you seen those? And he like gets mad at Jamie?
Because he can't look it up fast enough.
I have no idea. But I know if I got mad at Tiller during a show, Tyler would be like, stop.
Show's over.
Show's over now.
Zach's the one in trouble.
So, Tiller, what do you enjoy the most about being involved with Along the Keel? Do you like the whole piecing the production? I mean, obviously you do, but like, is there something specific where you're like, yeah, is it all just the gear, or do you like piecing together and the editing and all that stuff?
I mean, Ryan can probably attest that gear rabbit hole is a hard one to climb out of once you start down the road of collecting all that, so that's always fun. But no, really, I mean, even from day one, the first thing that we did together was the Waterman Eco Challenge, and just being exposed to an event like that I would have never gone to on my own.
Gotcha, yeah.
It was just pretty cool. It felt special. And then we started traveling, doing weekend trips down to you guys. Like, that was a vacation for me, even though technically what we produced was work.
Before we put you through hell and cold water?
Yeah.
Well, I figure anytime I'm doing something with him, I'm going to end up with a headache by the end of the weekend, regardless of what it is. So whether I'm going through a monsoon or popping my seasick cherry, or
I blocked that weekend out when you guys came down, and then we started talking about it recently, and if you guys hadn't come down, I would have been nowhere near the water. Like, and just the difference in the day that we had today compared to when you guys came down to visit us was like, I mean, just insane how different it was. I mean, it was
like night and day.
It was cold.
It's what you do and what you don't do. We did what we did today.
We experienced a Rhode Island, I feel like, weather event in Virginia, and then we come up here and it's just bluebird skies and gorgeous out, and the water's just amazing. And
so that's what's funny to me, because I don't know any different. So going down and seeing you guys operate in that element, I'm like, shit, these guys are badass. This is probably what they do on like 3 out of 7 days a week. Like, this weather, they probably start going out in like February.
We do, but not in that. Like, we definitely pick our days.
I know for next year.
Yeah. No, you guys will have to come down anywhere between April and November.
We learned our lesson last time. Choose the weather wisely.
Yeah. But it was, Zach, it was cool to see you in your element at the helm and captaining the boat. And it was, you can just tell that you're at home behind the wheel of the boat. And it was kind of cool to just see how you carried yourself. And, again, your knowledge of everything was awesome, but it was really cool to just see you in your element. And,
I appreciate that.
And what is different about having a boat and driving a boat versus like a car? Because it seems like something has obviously struck you with boats.
Yeah.
Like is there anything specific that you can pinpoint? It's like, this is why boats are awesome. This is why I've, dedicated a life to being on the water.
The sea. To the sea.
Yeah.
That's a really great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Tim. Yeah, I think boating. So actually, growing up, for there was a short period of time where I loved the water, and then there was a short period of time where I actually hated being on a boat, like actually feared being on a boat. And then I grew out of that, and I came to just absolutely adore it. Like, I would be out on a boat in February when no one should be in the water, and I'd be on a dinghy going to Fox Island, which is just outside the breakwall, over just before the oyster farm that we went to.
Okay.
With a buddy of mine, like fishing. Or for me, I actually enjoy mostly just being out on the water. Doesn't necessarily have to be fishing. Don't have to be going quail hogging or doing anything. It's just like being out there. And I think the reason is it's just a sense of pure freedom, and you have to be 100% present in what you're doing. because you're forced into that position, right? Like, you really can't look at your phone, right? You really can't. Even if someone called you and say, "Hey, I need you right here, right now," like, well, I can't do that right now. I'm on a boat.
Right.
Like, there's no other option.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
I'll see you in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like, when I was working for Cito, people are like, "Well, can you get here faster?" It's like, no, that's not how the math works. Like, going X amount of speed, you have X amount of distance. That's as fast as we can go. But I think it really struck me as, the sense of pure freedom, right? When you can be on the boat and you're feeling every single motion that boat makes, and it becomes a point where, you really almost, it sounds kind of kitschy, but you kind of become the boat, and you're able to move the boat as if you were just to move your arm or your legs, and you can feel how the boat is balanced underneath you. So it's almost as if you're one with the boat and the ocean, and you really can't get that on the road. And there's also a lot of distractions on the road. Right. I mean, when you're on the water, there's a lot of distractions, but they're all good distractions.
Right.
No one's yelling at you. No one's honking the horn. And typically when you're on the road, you have a destination.
Yeah.
On a boat, I mean, if you want to go over here to go over there, you can do that.
Right.
There's no aisles that you have to abide by, for the most part.
Right.
Rocks.
Yeah.
Rocks will do that.
Except for rocks.
But
yeah,
that's
I think that's probably, and I've just been doing it forever. It's kind of like there's a part of it that's like it's in the blood.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys had, you guys were able to meet my mom, and if you met my dad, he'd be saying the same thing. Like, he grew up on the water. My mom grew up on the water. They've both had boats. My grandmother has a boat. Like, I mean, it's part of the Rollins family.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And it's funny how families like that they just, it always gets carried on.
Yeah.
It's just something about the water, and I think it's the fact that it is uncontrollable, but it's also peaceful at the same time. It just keeps people coming back and sticking by it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's weird. Like, I've found some of the most peaceful moments in life have actually been on a boat when it's blowing 30 knots, thunder and lightning around you, and I was telling Tyler about this night, actually. I think it was yesterday. I was coming back from a job, and I was surrounded by thunder and lightning everywhere you looked, and it was literally hitting the ground around you. And I was like, well, I can go home and get to my truck and then drive home, and I'll be all right. Might be a little sketchy going into this storm, but I'll do it. We'll see what happens. Or I can just dock up here. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go. And you could just see the power of the earth around you, and just thunder and lightning. And it was, I think you were kind of like skirting on the edge of danger, but you knew you were going to be okay. But at the same time, watching everything around you and no one else is out there, it was probably one of the more peaceful moments in just realizing how small you actually are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have control over your own destiny.
Yeah.
So
No.
Not to get all existential, but
No, it's beautiful.
thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that.
So tell us about Long the Keel. How'd you come up with it? What is it? And what do you see the future in it?
Along the Keel. So I was working in Hawaii, and before that, I had graduated college. Always been working on the water since I was 12 years old. I started working at a towboat company called Safe Sea, washing boats, changing oil, like learning the very basic. And then went on and moved to, a marina, worked at boat yards, restored old boats, built boats. Kind of did every job you could possibly do. So now when I hop on a boat and I'm captaining that boat, I know every single step that boat went through to get to where it's at. And in college, I was like, man, sand and boat bottom sucks. Like, have you guys sanded a boat bottom before?
No.
I've sanded other things and it
Oh,
sucks.
sanding anything sucks.
Yeah. Sanding
Fiberglass, anything.
Yeah.
So sanding boat, I was like, man, sanding boat bottom sucks. At the time, the guy who I was working for, Jonathan, who's a good friend of mine, he was the owner of the boatyard in the marine service shop. And he was like, hey, you should go get your captain's license. And I was like, okay, I should go get my captain's license. So in a junior in college, I went out, grabbed my captain's license, and the guy who I got it from hired me. And from there, I just was like, became a captain, and that has almost kind of carried into my identity of who I am as a person. Go ahead, Tiller, you're all right. So after getting my captain's license, working with this gentleman, things weren't going as well as I thought they would have. So I had gotten approached by a friend of mine in college who was like, you know what, man, I want to get out. I want to move. I'm like, all right, where are you going to go? He goes, Arizona. Good luck with that. I have no desire to go to Arizona and live in the desert.
Right.
Desert's cool. I've been there. But he actually came back to me the next day. He was like, yeah, I know I'm going to move to Hawaii. I'm like, oh, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
So ended up moving to Hawaii, working as a captain out there, running their charter company. But I'd always been kind of entrepreneurial, growing up. I had a business called Crickets Ahoy. I don't know if you... Did I ever tell you guys that?
No, but I was definitely curious to dive into your entrepreneurial
In
spirit.
the past?
Yeah.
This is a good start. I'm
Yeah.
curious about this one.
So, do you want me to go into Crickets Ahoy?
You just give us a little.
Yeah, I
brief.
mean, I want you can't bring it up.
You
and
can't
then
bring it up and not say it?
explain it at least.
So,
What's the elevator?
what's the
pitch?
elevator pitch?
Yeah.
So we're going to give you fast delivery service for all your reptile needs is our elevator pitch. I think I was maybe 10 at the time. And I...
just slinging crickets.
Slinging crickets. Well, because you go to Petco, right? You go to Petco, and you wind up buying all these freaking crickets.
Yeah.
And then you bring them home, and then a day later, if you don't feed them, the dozen crickets, like a gecko's not going to eat a dozen crickets in a day, right? Well, all of a sudden, 2 days later, you got 2 dozen crickets, and you got 3 dozen crickets. And it's like, what the hell am I going to do with all these crickets, right? And I had them in a tank in my room. So at night, they would just be like
Loud.
blaring, right? And I'm like, well, there's other kids in the neighborhood that have, the need for crickets. They have geckos, they have salmon, they have newts.
Dude,
They have newts, your buddies.
This guy would have hired
He
you.
would have just fed you right up.
That was before Below Fresh.
And, the idea was, well, let me deliver these people crickets to their doorstep and they can pay me money. And it worked. I think I had like 2 customers. And I would roll around like a paper bag and I'd hand people, I'd knock on their door and be like, here's your crickets. And they'd, give me like $20 or something like that. So between that and like, cutting lawns and taking garbage cans from their top of their driveway to the bottom of their driveway on trash day, to lemonade stands and coffee stands, depending on the day. Saturday, you do a little more lemonade. Sunday, you're probably going to focus on coffee. It started to kind of like, you start to realize like, okay, I enjoy this. I enjoy kind of leading my own destiny and figuring out how I can creatively make money at the end of the day.
But did that just come from you, or was like your parents or whatever like urging you to, or were you just like these people in the neighborhood need crickets and I can provide this service? Like, was it just a natural thing, or was there like an influence to push you into like, oh, you can do what you want? Like,
right.
And
right. Well, they didn't need cricket. They deserved crickets, Tim. They deserved crickets. No, I think it came from, so my dad was always in corporate sales,
Okay.
and he was always kind of the guy that was leading the charge, and he was very much so like an entrepreneur, right? So someone in a company that would be put in charge of and growing that part of the company. Mm-hmm. And when I started the cricket thing, Crickets Ahoy, You can see where the maritime background would start to come in, right?
Yeah.
He wrote out this like mission statement on a flyer, and it was, I'm a young entrepreneur, saying it from my perspective, and I can remember actually asking him, like, hey, what is an entrepreneur? Like, what does that mean? Because that's a big word for a 10-year-old.
I still can't say it.
Yeah. And
Yeah, right. I struggle with it too, and and he explained it to me. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And later that year, maybe it was a few years later, he actually left his job and he went to open up a promotional items company. And it was the first time where I was actually able to participate in his job, right? Which to me was really, really cool, because what we did is we actually my job was moving boxes. I was the box guy.
Yeah.
And everyone in the family had a job. Like, when we would go on weekends, it was, all right, Noah, you're moving the boxes from here to here. Zach, you're moving the box from here to here, and we're going to get this all done as one big team, right? So I think in combination of watching him start that business and let it grow and see what happened, and then also just kind of this, I don't know, itch to go do something. I always had kind of a struggle of like sitting still. I mean, I think Tyler could probably attest to that. My mind's always like thinking in a bunch of directions. But I think what really struck me most was watching kids around the community and people around the community wear my dad's promotional items, clothing, right, apparel, and being able to say, like, we lived in a town where the high school football was like, it was life, right? It was in Florida. So football down there, as you guys know, is huge. Yeah. So to be able to watch the football team play with my dad's jerseys on and everyone wearing his hats, it was kind of powerful. It was like, wow, we actually made an impact. What I did, which seems so minuscule and small, made a huge impact on the other end, right?
Right.
So I think that probably was, where inspiration kind of led. I mean, my uncles had businesses. My uncle's into real estate. My other uncle owned restaurants. So, I don't know. It's kind of like in the family, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, just a guy likes crickets.
Just a guy that likes just a guy that likes crickets.
Yeah. So, going from there, going to now and starting along the keel.
Yeah.
Where did that
So I was living on the Big Island, and my last business or side hustle, you could say, was arbitrage on Amazon, going to job lot, buying things and reselling them. And when I got to the island, kind of lost that itch. And I was like, all right, well, what can I do? And my thought was, well, let me try and learn from other people. And selfishly, honestly, it was me looking for a job and figuring out what I wanted to do next, because I knew being a captain and driving a boat and taking people out on tours, although it was really, really cool and a lot of fun, doesn't really lead to anything much more than just that. Right? Mm-hmm. Unless I wanted to own the tour boat company.
Right.
Which is fine, but that's,
years down the road.
Years and years down the road. So I was like, all right, well, let me message 3 people and see if they would be interested in being on a podcast about businesses related to the ocean. Because I was like, all right, I'm a captain. I can talk about ocean stuff, right? So regardless of where the conversation goes, I can probably hold a conversation in that light. And then B, I like businessy type stuff. I was listening to a podcast called How I Built This by Guy Raz, and that was a huge inspiration. Listen to the stories of Airbnb and Cliff Bar and TRX bands and all these incredible entrepreneurs, and learning about what their successes were and their failures were. I was like, well, every small business has that. Yeah. So how can I learn from them? So that was kind of the catalyst. And man, I ordered a microphone off of Amazon for $25. I got a software on my computer, and I sat in my 3rd-story apartment building in Hawaii and recorded the first episode with Graham Watson from West Passage Oysters.
That was the very first one?
Yep. Wow. First episode.
He's a cool dude. It's cool to meet him.
Yeah.
that was pretty sweet to see that.
Yeah. And fun fact about that episode, the for some reason the landscapers that would come by the apartment would come by super, super early in the morning. And because of the time change, because of the time difference, I had to get up really early to do this podcast. It's been before work and whatnot. So because they were buzzing down bushes and whatnot, I had to go into the bathroom and sit on the floor next to the tub and shove towels under the door in order to dampen the sound. And I think if you still listen to it, you can hear like a weed whacker going off in the background. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, that's how it all started. And now we're 90 something episodes later, and we've grown into a media production company with Tyler coming on board. And I didn't think that was going to be the direction that we went, because there was multiple evolutions in between. You know, there was like, well, let's dabble in online retail, let's dabble in sales rep group thing, and like figuring this out.
Yeah.
And then when Tyler came on board, I realized, like, man, there's a lot of people that need help with authentic content and building out websites and graphic design and all this stuff that is relatable to their business and someone that I can actually talk to from experience.
Right.
So that's where Along the Keel was born. That's where it's kind of at, and that's where we're going to continue to take it. We got some really cool clients that we're working with now, and we talked about it. What was it? Last night, the night before, on the struggles and what that's like, because I know you guys are coming from a similar position, and it's a work in progress.
Yeah, no, it's funny how you start something and you've got like a little bit of an idea and you let it play out, and then there's these evolutions and you have to adapt, but then you make the decision of, maybe there's a way to make money in this, and then that changes the thought process a lot more, and it's you have to be way more flexible at adapting, and just trying to figure out your place and the demand of how to get to that point of being a functioning business.
Right. Well, I mean, even from your guys' perspective, like when we first met, it was over Instagram. Right. And it was like, I was just starting Along the Keel. You guys were just starting Chasing Tides. And we had talked about, well, what does this look like 6 months, a year down the road? And it's drastically different from when we first talked to what it is now, and how we're, in a lot of ways being successful in our individual areas. Yeah,
because I think when you reached out to us on Instagram, I mean, that was technically, if you're going to look back to our history, that was like our second evolution, because that's when we really started diving into the stories behind brands and doing features and stuff, and we're like, oh, like there's, at the very least, it's really cool to hear these people's story, and it's motivating for us. Like, I don't think we still had the idea. We definitely didn't have the idea of the magazine or even the content service side at that point, but it was just like a natural thing for us to like flex and develop something that we like to do, which was, everything's been the basis of storytelling.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, to get to this point back then, there was no way we could have.
You wouldn't could
have predicted that. Yeah. Or it was. Yeah, it's crazy.
I like this McConaughey quote. I think the arrow doesn't seek the target draws the arrow. So like we've already gone through probably 2 life cycles of what Along the Keel could have been since even I started.
100%.
So it's like
100%.
The energy that we put into figuring out what we're going to do 6 months from now is technically kind of useless, because everything's just going to play out the way it should.
Yeah, and that's been my whole thing with, Ryan and Nick, is I'm a bit more not impatient's not the word, but I'm like, it's good enough. Like, let's roll. Yeah. And
should we go offline and talk about this?
and and they've been way more like, let's see it play out, and every time it's always worked.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that. Into like you said, it's as much as you want to plan ahead, when you're starting something, it's really tough to have that plan and see it through, because something's going to come up, and we're all at the position now where we can be flexible with something and see something that pops up through.
Right. Well, you bring up a good point in you saying like your perspective versus Nick and Ryan's perspective, right, and how those differ. But in totality, what they mean when you bring them together is something that you can actually kind of chart your course and figure out what's next. I think in every team, there's someone that is kind of always thinking a little bit out there, right? And Tyler's laughing. But I think what's really powerful and what makes a good team is where you have both sides of the coin, right? Like Tyler's constantly trying to reel Zach back in,
right?
Being like, no, we're not gonna do that. Like, well,
he's the optimist, I'm the pessimist.
100%, right? But what in vice versa, like I'm able to pull Tyler into getting him into places that he's uncomfortable in or was previously uncomfortable in, but is now comfortable in, and getting us in a direction that we can go further, right? But then Tyler's like, Zach, we got to stay organized, you know? So the first thing that Tyler did, that was when I knew, I was like, oh yeah, Tyler's like the guy. He organized the Google Drive. My Google Drive was a lot like my head. It was like totally mixed up.
Where it is, but no one else does.
It wasn't a Google Drive. It was just whiteboard.
Oh, yeah, it was my whiteboard.
I kind of conceived the combination Google Drive.
Tyler introduced Zach to the internet.
To the internet.
To Google Suite.
Yeah.
Just think about all the crickets you could have sold if you had the internet.
Dude, thousands of them. Just millions.
All the crickets.
I would have been a rich man by now.
These poor kids are needing these crickets.
So is the crickets that are in the background now, are those yours? Or
those are all mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homegrown.
All the crickets in Rhode Island are actually my crickets.
Yeah.
It's actually just a sound effect we added because we had the fire. And
oh, yeah.
here.
We had the fire.
Mm.
The fire was...
I thought that was Newt's job.
I didn't know I was allowed to get up.
We should have the conversation about just stocking wood for later.
Stocking wood for later.
I got to put my shoe on.
Yeah, don't...
But we didn't see that through.
There's a lot going on. This is the first night shoot.
This is true.
It's okay. We had a good time today, so this is fine. But no, it's the funny thing about the opposing, it's not opposing personalities, but just the different personalities and the enthusiasm, optimism versus realism or pessimism. Like I fall somewhere in the middle of both of those, where I can get really pumped up about something, but then I'm also like, yeah, all these ideas are great, but like we need to build a roadmap to achieve said ideas.
Right.
Like I'm not saying we need to plan years down the road, but there needs to be infrastructure in place
100%,
so we can actually execute on these pie in the sky ideas. But it's and Ryan, Nick, and myself all have these spurts where we're just blowing up our text chat of like, what about this, what about this, what about that. Like we know when Ryan is driving home to Maryland to go see his family on the farm, like within a day or two our text is gonna just blow up with ideas from Ryan, because that's when he's just slamming coffee on the road and just his mind's turning, and and then we're like, oh God, Ryan's back just spurting out ideas. But it's there needs to be that enthusiasm of what could be, but with the realization that there's steps that need to be made to execute all of that.
Right. And I think what's been the coolest part for me in creating Along the Keel was, at first, you're going in this journey, and it's lonely, right? I mean, you're the guy that's doing it, right? And if it doesn't get done, no one else is going to do it for you.
Right.
If you don't go to the gym, you're not going to get stronger. Plain and simple. And the same thing is true with Along the Keel, right? I mean, if you go to your regular job and you don't do that thing, chances are the company is going to exist tomorrow, right? But if you don't send that email and you don't make that text happen and you don't send that proposal out, right? Well, you're not going to get work. Right? Money's not coming in the door.
Right.
So what I think has been my favorite part of the evolution of Along the Keel has truly been being able to go from the single man show to bringing on someone that is equally as passionate in his area of expertise.
Right.
And then being able to grow it together. Because I don't know who said the quote, but it's, go alone and you can go fast, but go together. What's that?
I said it.
You said that?
Your voice was even kind of like Tyler's voice just now. So.
But go together and you can go far.
Faster alone, further together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's true in anything.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you go further with a group of guys and gals that you're really close with, rather than just going and training by yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I think that fits perfect for, the three of us too.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be the same if it was just one or two of us. Like,
right.
We all balance each other out, and we all have different skill sets that are natural to us,
mm-hmm.
and it's gotten us to this point, and we're excited to see what the next chapter is and what we can build of it.
Yeah, I mean it's someone's got to make the charcuterie boards, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Nick handles the smoked, the smoked whitefish and salami spread. And he's not here to defend himself, but
that's all right. He'll hear it.
Yeah, we'll be appreciative of that. Well, is there anywhere, or since you've started Along the Keel,
mm-hmm.
like, is there something that has happened and you're like, man, I can't believe that I'm in this situation, or,
Nick Northern
conversation that you had, or, something like that come across and you're like, man, I never, oh my God, his ears were burning.
Can you, on that phone tab, on the Bluetooth tab, just push that up.
Press the blue button.
No, push the blue button. Push that slider up.
This?
Nick, can you hear us?
Carl, good to see you.
Nick, you're alive.
Yeah, Nick, we've got
you're...
caller 75, Nick Northern, on the Along the Keel podcast with Zach, Tyler, Tim, and Ryan.
Is this me? Can you hear me?
You.
I just have to admit before you hear this, Zach, we brought up that each of us have our own separate strengths and that it balances each other out. And Zach goes, yeah, I mean, if you didn't have Nick, who would make the charcuterie boards? And we talked like a little bit of trash about that. And now that you've just called in after we said that, that's a little spooky, but I wanted to be the first to tell you that before you heard this. And anyway, we weren't talking bad about you.
Well, I have this peripheral, call it a sixth sense, Timothy. But I know when people are talking shit about me in the world, so I just felt like time was right. The buzz the tower, if you will.
Well, it's an appreciated buzz. How are you, Mr. Nick?
You know what, Zach? I've been better.
Man.
It's 10 o'clock EST, and we just got the gremlin down, but things are all right.
All right.
We're good.
All right.
I'm outside in the garage. What's left of fire pit, glistening in the solo stove.
You're having a fire pit?
Well, had a fire pit.
Nick, you're not even gonna believe we're having a fire pit too.
Yeah, dude, we're
It's like you're here.
sitting in the fire. Newt's been stoking this fire like a maniac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, believe it or not, I knew you guys are having a fire pit because of my addiction to social media and the Instagram account that I'm a part owner of.
Nicholas. Well, we
Love
missed
it.
you up here today. That is for sure and cannot be understated.
You know what, though? You know what I'm thinking to myself as I saw the pictures of that fucking enormous New England striper you caught is you guys probably had a great fish or a great day, caught multiple species of fish. It's because I was actually not there. Had I been there, we would have caught anything. It probably would have been cold and rainy, and blown ass. So I'm glad that you guys got it done today.
Pretty spot on. Yeah.
We covered that earlier in the podcast, so thank you for calling in and verifying our our.
That's a true fact checker.
Yeah. Yep. That is.
Hey, we're not much, but authentic is a word that'll get to it. So fair enough.
Well, we were just diving into Zach's past, and we covered Crickets Ahoy, his very first business that he started when he was 10, providing neighborhood kids crickets for their lizards.
Holy smokes, you called it Crickets Ahoy?
Yeah, you got a problem with that, Nick?
I don't know. I thought maybe Jiminy Crickets or something, but Crickets Ahoy, that'll work. It's fine.
It's now defunct.
It's for sale if you want to buy it.
Yeah.
Domain and everything.
We don't make enough money to buy it, but maybe one day we'll get there. But continue. So we're talking about Crickets Ahoy, Zach's an entrepreneur, slinging bugs to neighborhood reptile enthusiasts, and
to podcast, e-commerce, and media agency.
yeah.
So
Expand.
well,
Expand.
we were just getting to the point of asking, what has happened since you started along the keel that you're just like, I can't believe that I'm talking to this person or I'm in this situation. Is there anything that specific that you can pinpoint to be like, oh man, this is because of the internet.
Right. Yeah. I think there's probably a few. There's what's that?
Can I start it just because I can
Start it.
And
I gauge
Tyler
your
is on
reactions?
camera
Start it.
joining us.
Killer?
Yeah,
Killer.
I'm sitting in your
Killer.
seat tonight, Nick.
Killer. Hold it down, buddy. Oh, I miss you. I'd give you a big hug if I could.
So
Take it away.
every trip we've gone on so far,
Mm-hmm.
first thing we do when we get in the truck, doors are shut. And then I just gauge your reaction and kind of your first thoughts as the silent.
For those
first part of
that
the car.
don't see this camera, they locked eyes and touched fists. So I
Yeah.
want you guys to
So it
know
was very romantic.
it's really romantic, kind of off-putting, but continue.
It's dark. Hopefully the camera didn't pick that up. No, what stood out most, I think, was your kind of obsession with that feeling after Operation Real Heroes, just because that was probably the biggest trip, biggest production we put together, and just the cause that it supported and
Yeah.
just being a part of it and kind of the lives that we touched.
Yeah. I think that's probably been one of the biggest for me is, you start something and you have no idea who it's going to affect. And whether it's someone that sends you a message on Instagram saying, man, this was so cool, like, really appreciate you put that out, to something as, on a larger scale where, when I started along the keel, we initially had Operational Heroes on just as a guest, and that was just kind of me being curious, just like any other episode of the podcast. And that guest, Pat, and his business partners, Brian and Arthur, and then his girlfriend, Summer, they all came on the show. And it was just like any other podcast, but it was, when you're dealing with a group of people such as veterans that really deserve the amount of respect that they, sometimes don't get, where, and when you're dealing with those folks and you're just like, wow, I want to do everything I can to help them, right? Well, after going to the first Operational Heroes, I left knowing that I have to come every single year. No matter what. Like, this is a non-negotiable. This is something that gets booked on the calendar and is like, oh, this is my mom's birthday. Oh, it's Operational Heroes. Like, have to be there, right? So when I got the opportunity to go this year and to be able to bring Tyler there and to film it and record it and really document it and then see the reaction of the guys when they're getting their picture taken. Something as simple as getting your picture taken with your fish and then seeing it, on the big screen later on. Big screen meaning
The phone screen.
on the Google Drive, right?
Yeah.
But being able to see your picture there, right,
yeah.
is no, you're good. Is something super cool, super special, right? But I think what really did it for me was when we left, or just as we're about to leave, we had done filming all day. We'd done, we had been up since basically the trip looked like this. We went from Rhode Island to Long Island. We both got out of work. We got done, hopped in the truck, drove all the way down there. It's like a 5-hour ride plus ferries and all this other stuff. Went to the gym because you got to go to the gym before you go.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the gym. Don't you worry.
Oh God. Got to Pat's house, hung out, got set up, went to this dinner event, took some pictures, and then the next day woke up early, and did the whole thing again, right? And ended off at 5, and then we had to go do another shoot in Boston the next day. So we went from Long Island to Boston, stayed at Tyler's house that night, and did a whole nother shoot the next day. So it was like, this was going to be like a long weekend, right?
Yeah.
But after getting done with Operational Heroes, some random guy comes up to both of us, and he has a challenge coin in his hand, and he shakes our hands. He says, "Thank you guys for doing this. You don't know how many lives you just touched." And he hands us his challenge coin. I have the challenge coin in my office.
Yeah.
And it gives me chills right now because after receiving that, you kind of zoom back into, the one microphone on a kitchen table, right, with your laptop, not knowing where that's going to take you. And then all of a sudden you realize how many friends you've made along the way, right?
Right.
Like, this would have never have been a thing if Along the Keel didn't start, if Jason's Eyes didn't start, right? I would have never have met Pat, who I literally talked to on probably a bi-weekly basis, depending on where he is in the world on a ship, right? Tyler and I would have never have really become friends, right? Because we were acquaintances, but until you really work with someone and spend hours and hours and hours in the truck with, you become friends with that person, right? And I consider Tyler probably one of my best friends at this point. So it's real. I could go on and on about the number of people that I've met, the connections that I've made from a business perspective, how powerful that's been, to a relationship standpoint, to just even a personal standpoint where just your confidence, right? Your confidence to gauge a room, walk into people, be like, "Hey, how you doing? What can I do for you?"
Right.
Offering value. I mean, I think that out of all the lessons that I've learned, it's offer as much value to someone as possible out of the gate with no expectations, and see what happens.
Right.
Chances are it'll be good.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's incalculable the amount of stuff that I've learned from doing this. It's so hard to gauge, from everything. So yeah, that's a really long answer to your question.
Nah, I mean, that's why we asked it. Just to see how you articulated that. I mean, we have similar experience with what we've been doing, but yeah, it's just funny how when you start something, what can come of it.
Yeah.
Just by doing it.
Yep, 100%. You just truly never know.
Yeah.
What that first step is going to lead you. You know, and then being consistent in the next steps is where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, consistency is key for sure.
Yep.
So let's talk about the gym.
Oh man.
I know you talk about it on episodes here and there, but for those of the listeners that don't know,
mm-hmm.
you your main hobby
Mm-hmm.
is Olympic powerlifting. Did I say that correctly?
Olympic weightlifting, but
Weightlifting.
sure, close
Okay.
enough.
Okay.
Come on, Tim.
Sorry. Sorry. I haven't touched a weight in a long time. What? How'd you get into that? And what do you bench currently?
Oh God! Shut up, Nick. I still hear you. Well, to tell
Bench
you,
squat deck, go.
to tell you the truth, I mean, last I benched, I probably put up like 315 pounds.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, that was a while ago.
Mhm.
And in Olympic weightlifting, it's snatch and clean and jerk, and then accessories are back squat, pull, front squat, and then a lot of other just random stuff. So to say bench as a good benchmark, I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But
fair.
probably around
fair.
300 pounds.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I got into that. I mean, honestly, huge component of it was my mom, right? She was semi-professional bodybuilder, always, working out, training, doing something. I've been eating out of Tupperware like my entire life. Chicken and rice, beef and rice. Tyler knows I eat quite a bit of red meat.
Ground beef and rice, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Not breakfast, but lunch and dinner.
I've
But
gone
yeah.
into the truck at like 9 a.m. and
Okay,
you know,
that's true. I have eaten that
glass
for
full.
breakfast.
I've eaten weird, I guarantee, so don't worry about it.
But yeah, I mean, she was a huge inspiration for that. And then, honestly, getting into like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbu, like those guys were huge inspiration to working in on the strength side.
Yeah.
Like Franco Columbu, not a lot of people realize, but not only was he a world-class bodybuilder, he was a world-class strongman as well. So to not only have a badass physique, but have someone that you're just wicked strong, right? My dad was big into powerlifting, and he's the kind of guy that he, even to this day, like he can sit down and still rep out 225 on the bench without really blinking an eye. So I always thought that was cool, right? Just like strength in general is just being able to carry yourself in a way that is, you're building confidence, right? So that's probably the most reason why I got into lifting was, my family. Nowadays, not only am I into it, but my brother is too. And he's more on the bodybuilding side. I play more on the weightlifting side. So, I guess I'm kind of like the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of the family when it comes to the gym.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's the short and dirty of getting into the gym, and it's always kind of been like that pillar,
Yeah.
It's like you have the gym, relationships, business, finance, career, all in one, and then hobbies and whatnot. I mean, I don't even really consider the gym a hobby. It's just
Right.
It's just a thing.
That's
It just has to exist, And if one of those other things doesn't allow that thing to occur, then I have to find another way.
So you mean like taking us out on the boat today? Like you didn't get to lift, so now you're like.
Oh no, I batched it in earlier in the week.
You're fighting rage now. Is that what you're saying?
that's why he had the black eyes.
Yeah.
when you guys came out.
We didn't feed Zach his ribeye today. So.
He actually lifted the boat out of the water today just to get it underneath.
Gotta get the reps in.
Well, do you carry any discipline from committing yourself to that to building along the keel in your professional business life? Are there any parallels there, or?
I mean, probably. Yeah. I mean, if you're not consistent in the gym, the gym is the great equalizer, right? I mean, and what I love about it is the fact that if you go in there and you see someone that's wicked strong, they had to earn every single pound of that, right? Now, are there people that take, performance enhancing drugs? Sure. Yeah, Newt, obviously.
Yeah, you see my biceps? Yeah, checked. They're wicked. They're wicked strong.
His
They're
bald
wicked.
head's
They're
so
wicked
shiny.
strong.
Yeah.
And even like performance enhancing drugs, like what people don't realize is that you still have to be incredibly driven and work hard, even if you're taking those, right?
Ah, that makes sense.
That's why they're not working.
Yeah.
And not to say that I take them, but
Nah, that was nice,
when you walk into the gym and you realize that someone, benches 405, it's like, oh, geez, this guy's strong, right? Like,
yeah,
he had to earn 405.
Yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
So I think there's always been kind of, and even in our tagline, earn your summer, right? It's always been the mentality of like, if you want to get somewhere, you got to earn your spot to get there.
Right.
If you want to be on that team, all right, go ahead, earn it, right? If you want to talk to that person, you want to get in touch with that person and be in touch with that person's network, you got to earn your way there. Right? And you got to be consistent in all the steps leading up, preceding that moment. So same thing in the gym is like, if your squat sucks, well, chances are you're not consistent with sleep, diet, training, stress management, all these other things that allow the squat to be successful. If you're not doing that, then it's your fault at the end of the day, So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just learned a whole life lesson
Yeah,
at
no,
35.
that's,
This is
I'm
great.
gonna start.
I'm just stressed and I don't sleep, so maybe that's my problem. I don't squat very good.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back into the gym.
It's them sticky feet.
If Nick's in his garage, he's probably racking out some squats right now.
Nick, you got a squat rack in there?
Yeah, come on, bud.
Oh, let's
He's
go.
probably smoking a dart too. Doing it.
That was the most
Funny, 'cause it's true.
evil laugh.
Oh man. Well, what?
Wait, Nick, have you ever smoked a dart and squatted at the same time?
Full back squat, no. Morning glory, yes. 100%.
This is a PG show or what?
Yeah, I think we got another caller coming in. So Nick, thanks for buzzing
We
in.
have to put this guy on mute.
Yeah. Why don't you DM us your email and we'll get you the free shirt. No, but seriously,
No.
answer the question, Nick.
What?
No. The answer is no. The answer to your question
Answer's no.
The answer
We
is
should
no.
change that.
I mean, I could probably accomplish that right now.
Oh, please do.
I don't have a dart. I do have a cigar right now. I mean, yeah, I could go rack up. The bar is right there. It doesn't have anything on it, but
Send us a
probably
picture.
45.
You gotta record it. We gotta embed this into the final podcast.
Is
Yeah,
that
this has to be in
possible?
the video.
Cut over to you.
100%.
Yeah, we got young Tyler over here. He's doing
Ooh, young Tiller.
Young Tiller.
young Tiller. Young
Gotta
Tiller.
change my Instagram handle now.
Damn.
YT.
So,
Um,
oh, go ahead, Nick.
no, continue on.
Do you have any advice for young power lifters and aspiring marine podcast hosts out there to follow?
Oddly specific.
Yeah, do you guys have a Facebook group?
Yeah, we have a Facebook. That was
No, I
odd.
mean, if you had to give some advice to someone that was thinking about, doesn't have to be related directly to the outdoors or to starting something. I mean, is there something other than the consistency part that you've learned that you would be like, do this?
Yeah, and I think this gets said. Maybe it gets said a lot, but it's like finding Newt,
Dude, they're gonna
dropping
make us
your
pay.
beers, man.
They're
Going
gonna
down my
make us
pants.
pay
Hold on.
for those.
No, on camera.
Jeez. Not by the ceviche.
Not by the ceviche.
All right, we're good. Clear.
Claire, all good. I would say finding your pack, finding your tribe is probably the biggest thing, right? Is find a group of people that you can roll with, and they're folks in there that are smarter than you at certain things, but you're better at them at certain things. You can feed off of them just as much as they can feed off of you. Kind of like creating your team. I think that's super, super powerful. Like they always say, you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with, right? you, Newt, and Nick are powerful together because you are together, So I think, yeah, look at that.
We're sharing a hotel room.
Yeah, but it's a suite.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Together we can
sweet.
bench 300.
Yeah.
All three of us.
And I think, for personally, I think it's like find someone to help mentor you in a way that you can learn from them, from their mistakes. Because what I've learned from a mentor of mine, John, is, he's able to help compress the time from a success and a failure, right? Of what did I learn? What did I do incorrectly that was probably not the best decision that you might have lost money on, but I'm just going to tell you what not to do. That way you don't have to go through that pain.
Right.
So I think that's probably been one of the largest things for me is, finding a mentor, finding your team. Like right now, we just moved into a new gym, and let me tell you that the amount of energy that's in that place now is off the charts. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you go in there, and if you haven't lifted any weights before, you're going to put something on the bar, right? Because just the energy alone is going to help you. Tyler and I are working together and walking into a room and, setting this up. Every single time we set this up, people look at us because at first they kind of like, yeah, all right, podcast, sure, whatever. And you show up with two people setting up equipment, lights, cameras, all this, and then you have the headsets. They put the headsets on. They hear themselves talking. And they're like,
yeah.
So cool.
They're like, oh, shit, this is like Joe Rogan or something, right? And how often, I mean, you hear it, right? They're like,
Well,
oh, shit, this is legit.
Yeah.
so that's a point I want to kind of build off of yours for like the advice is, because I'm kind of a perfectionist in everything we do, even though I'm not an expert in anything we do. I always want to do stuff to the extent of what you see on YouTube, all these content creators. But my advice is to just, cliche enough, just do it even if you don't have that
Right.
gear, the experience, the know-how, because it's all relative. We went into the first couple podcasts without these lights, with two cameras and one camera and a borrowed second camera.
I used to borrow
And-
cameras.
Yeah, and the guests still thought it was a badass setup,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Right.
And perspectives are all relative, so
Right.
everyone knows that we're still just getting off the ground and stuff. So it's not, there's no not super high expectations, I guess, but every time is iterative, and pretty much every podcast we do, we have it dialed down more. We have a new piece of gear from a lot of just personal investment and sacrifice, and just spending a lot of time on YouTube University, just learning what I did wrong the previous time.
Yeah.
And over-delivering every time.
Yeah.
Like when we do client work, it's always your expectation is here, and you're always going to raise the bar just a little bit, right? So that they come back and they say, that was actually pretty cool. Like, let's do that again.
Was that
right?
a lifting term? Raising the bar?
Okay. That was a good pun.
Sick. Sick on this.
But
You answered the phone for this kid?
I know, right? Jesus. Oh, Tim forced me to. But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably where I would leave it, and maybe add in just again provide exponential value with no expectations, and see what happens, because this podcast has opened more doors just by the fact of having someone on the show, providing them a ton of value for free, and then seeing what happens in return. And most of the time it works out. And that's how we've been able to build a business in the back end of Along the Keel, and then start things elsewhere and make friendships, make business decisions. And now we're working, we're set to be working with one of the larger beer manufacturers in New England, in the country, just because of a relationship that started because of a podcast.
Yeah.
So pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
No, it's awesome. It's been sweet to be a part of it and kind of watch it grow, and see you guys take that next step and building the next portion of it.
No, appreciate it. Yeah. Right back at you guys, like being able to go down to Virginia and then you guys saying like, we're coming up to Rhode Island. And then here we are, in the backyard at a fire pit, had a badass day with fishing, talking to the Nicholas Charcuterie Board. Man.
Enjoy it.
I did enjoy it.
Here's a question along that, and maybe it's like a statement that I would love to hear your thoughts on afterward. And so lifting is a perfect parallel, in my opinion, to this. A lot of people are hesitant to start working out, whether that's lifting, whether that's just getting in shape, whether that's doing whatever, because it's intimidating at first, and it's certainly uncomfortable and to a large degree painful, obviously, when you first start. And Tim, Ryan, and I came together in an athletic environment to begin with, and then I stayed in that field for a number of years and had almost a decade-long career directly in athletics, and saw a bunch of young people start their fitness and especially weightlifting journeys to start. And I only say that to say that you observe people and their hesitancies are, I don't know how to do this, so I'm not going to try hard at this. And being that you are very involved in the lifting space, but also now the undertaking of Along the Keel, when you started this, you were just one mic and nothing else, no other knowledge of what a podcast is. So it's kind of the same thing. You step into the gym for the first time, you see a bunch of people pushing up weights. Well, you step behind the microphone for the first time, and like where, I guess this ramble gets to, what have you, learned from just that time, as you like to say, that time under tension? I don't know where to start, but I just started. And because of X, Y happened. Like, what is that Y? What have you learned by just doing it?
That was a long question.
It was a very long question.
It was a
bit of a ramble.
It was a good lead up. Yeah, I think it's the power of starting. It really all boils down into, I've learned how to be uncomfortable with being comfortable. It's like that feeling of unknowing, what that person is going to say or do, not really being sure how that person is going to react. Like, are they going to say no to that podcast, interview? Are they going to come onto the phone and totally think I'm an idiot, and am I going to go into this meeting and totally get crushed, right? But it's about being uncomfortable with being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and not knowing what you're getting yourself into, and being okay with that, and I was talking to my friend John this over the week, and I say, hey, have you, and John's built and sold multiple businesses, and he's very successful. And, I asked him a question. I go, hey, like, do you ever feel this sense of, like, almost like you're squirming in your own skin? Like, you don't know, and it's hard to describe that feeling.
No, yeah, I
like, you know what I mean, Tim?
100%, yeah.
Like, you're just, you can feel there's so many forces around you that there's a lot of good momentum happening, and you can see that, and you can feel that, and people are telling you that, but at the end of the day, you're still locked into your own head. You're still locked into your own head, and you're trying to figure out, like, I mean, pardon my French, but like, what the fuck? Like, why am I not getting to where I want to be right this second, right? And everyone wants it right this second, just as I want it right this second. But it's about being patient and being able to sit in the bottom of a squat, knowing that I can drive out of the hole. And like sometimes, like the yesterday, I was doing a heavy 3 on the back squat. Got 2 reps in, got to the 3rd rep. I literally was at a dead stop grind halfway through the 3rd rep, and I couldn't finish it, so I didn't. But at least I grinded. At least I stopped, and I tried to grind that squat out. So I think it's just being able to be okay with settling back in, with being super uncomfortable all the time, knowing that once you make that one little step in the right direction, that all of a sudden you kind of get a release, And if you'd asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to answer it, because the last couple weeks, last 6 months has been exactly that, until you start to feel as though you're gaining enough momentum where you can start to gain clarity, and then it starts to click. It's like when things are feeling so fucked up and beyond any recognition of what's actually going to happen, knowing that that's exactly where you're supposed to be at that exact time, and therefore something good is going to happen. That's how. I don't know if that answered your question, Nick.
It
But
did
that's
in a
kinda
much more
that's-
elegantly way than I asked it.
That perfectly described the last 2 months of my life, 3 months of my life. That exact everything you just minus the squats. But yeah, I feel like that all the time, especially with what we're doing. It's just like
I'm working on 34 years of that.
yeah, it's
35, bud.
I ain't there yet, bud. Couple more months. 2 more months.
Just hanging on to it, huh?
That's the turning point, 35.
yeah, it's the being patient when you just feel like everything is you just can't see your way out.
Yeah.
But everybody else kind of can, and it's just trusting the process and knowing that it's going to get better. But
and that's why it's so important to have people around you.
Yeah.
To be like, dude, you got this. It's going to happen. Like, they can see it, and you can see it, but it's just really hard in the moment to grasp that and like have the nuts to just be like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to keep going.
Right.
Because, there's times where Tyler and I will go back and forth, and we're like, you know what? Frickin' this client, like, we're trying to get this thing to cross the goal line, and it's like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden it falls through, but then something else comes into play, and it's way better than the other thing that you were just working on that you thought was the end-all, be-all, gonna solve all your problems, right? Mm-hmm. When in reality it wasn't going to be, because as soon as you get that thing, you're like, oh, all right, well, now we need a new thing.
Right.
Like, there's always that new thing that you have to get.
Yeah.
So, we were just talking about that, like, last week.
We're always talking about it, and kind of
it's constantly talking about it.
Well, to add to it from a what we produce, what our process is perspective, and being patient, like, we go into every podcast knowing what we don't have compared to where we want to be. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly having conversations about what we want to invest in once we get paid for a certain contract, and we have to make that sacrifice and be patient, knowing that we don't have this lens to shoot in this condition. It took us a while. We were talking about these lights for months before we got them. We didn't have these lights when we came down to see you guys, so for that reason alone, the quality of this podcast, sorry, Nick, that you couldn't be here to be blessed by this light, is going to be higher quality than it was 6 months ago.
Right.
And we had a conversation on the boat today about, Sony just came out with this new camera, so it's cheaper than what we were expecting, and 3 months from now, 6 months from now, we can have this camera, and this camera.
Right.
And being okay with, in the interim time, this is what we got, this is what we're going to work with, make the best of it while we can, and then figure out what to expect once we can get that new upgraded stuff, hit the ground running with the new equipment, new knowledge, and higher quality product.
Yeah.
because you know it's down the road.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so Tim, like when you say that's been the product of like the last 2 months of you trying to figure it out, of like how to go about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. What is it that you've done to be like, well, I guess we just keep on plugging away?
I mean, just plugging away. I mean, specific to me, you know, I fell victim to corporate America this summer and was laid off from my 9-to-5 job that provided some much needed financial stability. And I've never not had something there, but I'm committing to trying to build Chasing Tides into a business to where that can be my full-time job. And we've been in conversations with people and, you know, about getting work and things. And it's, you know, it's like, well, we can do this. Like, let's get it going. But it just, everything takes a little bit, and
Takes a little bit
of time, and it's like
just a little time.
Yeah, and then
decades of time. It feels like.
Yeah. And just, you know, there's days where I wake up and I'm just like, I could just go get a job and it would be whatever. But I want to. I want to work for myself. I want to work with my friends and build this. And it's just, yeah, being uncomfortable of not knowing where my paycheck or when my paycheck is coming has been really the last few months for me, and that's a new, unique feeling for for myself. And but yeah, it's just getting the infrastructure in place so that you have the stepping stones and you can keep building, keep the ball rolling, and let the wins stack up is really, you know, the only way that I know to move forward.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and honestly, Tim, like, in a way, I kind of envy your perspective there because I haven't 100% made the leap. You know what I mean? Like, I still have a quote-unquote 9-to-5 job, right? Granted, there's a lot more flexibility than most jobs, so I'm not physically driving into someone's office and whatnot, but you know, I have yet to make the 100% leap. I'm hoping that it's coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
I can feel it. But, you know, I honestly can't speak from that perspective. You know, obviously you were put in a position or kind of forced in that position, but you've been able to have this opportunity through building something else in the interim that now you have the opportunity to actually jump into. Yeah. Which is kind of neat.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, Ryan, you know, and Nick and I have talked about that, and as Chasing Tides has progressed, there's been glimmers of light of like, oh, holy shit, like there's an opportunity here to, you know, turn this into something that, you know, we can make money off and, you know, feed ourselves and all that. So it's being forced into that, and those last few months have really helped us put the effort into building that, you know, legit business plan and seeing what we can make of it.
Yeah.
So, but it's terrifying as shit. Like, it's awesome to be like, yeah, we're gonna do this, but you know, when you don't get responses from your first 20, 30 emails, you're just like, oh God, you know.
Right.
But it's all part of the process, and we just gotta keep rolling with it and until we can't. But I think we've got good momentum going, and we've got a good plan in place, and
you
know, as long as Nick keeps working on that dart pull and back squat, we'll be all right.
Back is strong, baby. Don't worry about me over
here. Nick, you get me every time.
I wish you guys were here in my garage, man.
Yeah, we'd be ripping darts and cigars and back squatting.
I got to tell you, I'm doing like the douchiest thing I've probably ever done. I'm like sitting in my super suburban driveway alone with a cigar watching Florida State and Clemson on my garage TV. I hate, but also love myself right now. So.
Full dad mode.
Yeah, it's the daddest fucking thing ever. This is I was sitting in the same chair at my daughter's soccer practice this morning, which is 3-year-olds playing soccer is the stupidest thing ever. But
that's gonna be chopped up into a clip and then thrown up on the gram. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I mean, we're just doing it out here, bub. We're just I'm looking at the three baby doll size strollers that are in my garage, as if she needs 3, but she's got fucking 3. Yeah.
What else you got for us, Nick? What other dadisms can you throw our way?
Oh Christ, I could keep going. My motion light just went out, so I'm gonna stand up and reset that real quick. Why don't you guys keep talking now? I'll be here when you need me.
Well, what do you guys think you've learned the most from just kind of going from starting a magazine to working into something a little bit bigger than just the magazine?
I'm sure they told you already, but we're asking the questions tonight.
Oh, well, then find a question.
We need to.
I can't help myself.
We need to get caller 82 out of here.
Yeah, call it. Newt, where are you going? Smoldering.
No,
Like Nick.
Repeat your question, Zach.
I honestly don't remember.
What have we learned?
What have you
From
learned?
going from a magazine to
More than a magazine.
Yes.
I'm
back.
Whoa.
I mean,
Is that a growl?
yes, is there a bear behind us? What have we learned from? I mean, I think the one thing that we learned is like there's more to offer outside of the magazine. For me, I think the magazine is a kind of an example of what we can provide a business to help their business grow, whether it's in the magazine or not. It's an example of the work that we do that can produce authentic content for a company to, grow their brand and, i.e., make more sales.
Newt?
Oh, man. I learn stuff every day, Zach. Every day.
What did you learn today, Newt?
I learned that you can't just take performance-enhancing drugs and not lift and get bigger.
Crazy, right?
I've been doing that this whole time. Turns out you can't just eat creatine and sleep and get bigger. No, I don't know. I think biggest thing for me is probably just because Tim and I are in the same boat, so we're working together every day, and it's fairly new. So we've had the magazine, now we're transitioning to this other side of our business. More so just like learning how to work with someone like that, because it's, what I do affects his livelihood. What he does affects my livelihood directly every single day. So it's kind of like unselfishly looking after for each other. So you really have to push yourself. And if I'm having a down day, Tim's really good at, dude, hey, we just got to get this out. Let's just get this out, get this email out, and we're good, and we're done. And it should be the vice versa. So just learning how to pick each other up and just fighting through the growing pains. And that way, kind of what you just said, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's harder sometimes to say than really do until you really experience it. And, you really are a stronger person after going through really tough times. So going from a magazine where we think, it's going to be a very slow it's going going to be very slow to build that. You can't just start print in 2022 and expect to make $1 million. But just figuring out the other avenues that, you just never know. Someone can come up and say, hey, do you guys do this? We saw you do the magazine. We can do that for you. Yeah. And why don't we do that for other people?
Yeah.
So it's just every day is just kind of like a learning curve. And it's just, you're still just fine tuning your business and kind of staying in your wheelhouse. But at the same time, you're going to learn what you can provide for other people and how you can help other people and grow with them as well.
Just breaking down like the magazine to small, like bite-sized pieces. Like, sure, we could do an article for you. It might not be a magazine length, but it could be perfect for your newsletter or something like that. So just trying to like analyze what we do well and what we'd like to do, and then turning that into a proposition for somebody, and how then in turn how can we present that to them as a valuable thing for their business. But I mean, to Ryan's point of we are dependent on each other now, and coming with that is more real conversations where it's like we're great friends, but this is a conversation between two business partners right now. This is not Tim and Ryan as friends talking, and there needs to be that understanding of like this is not personal. This is a business conversation. I'm not saying this to beat you up. I'm not saying this to that I'm right or whatever. It's just as a business, this is what needs to happen, and then taking emotion out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think Tyler and I have, we've had by no means like arguments at all. It just more or less like, this is how I think we should do it, and this is how I think we should do it, and let's meet together and figure out a way that it makes sense for both parties, and at the end of the day, it makes sense for the business, right? Because like, without that, working together means nothing, right? Because if that doesn't exist, then this doesn't exist, right? But knowing that it takes two pieces to make the whole, right? So if Zach's not on his game, if Tyler's not on his game, then along the keel suffers, right? But yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great point. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we have conflicting opinions about a lot of stuff, and I've, since I started, been more open-minded to changing how I feel about how things should be run, just how I've seen my day job company be run, and you offer great perspectives that are pretty opposite of mine, and everything has been improving moving forward as we've been going along.
Yeah, and I think it really boils down to like Tyler and I are just wired differently as humans. Tyler's an engineer. He's very engineering, and he's really good at what he does. Yeah. And he's also really creative. So what that does is it allows Tyler to be really creative, but also produce things at somewhat of scale, because he's good at building out systems, I mean, if you saw our Google Drive, it would be like,
based on my engineering company.
It's based on his engineering company.
We might need some help, Tyler, by the way.
Now, actually, I have taken what Tyler's done in his Google Drive and organized my entire desktop for even my, for everything, for my personal stuff, work stuff, business stuff, all of it is based off of Tyler's Google Drive model. So thank you, Tyler.
And vice versa to that, like me offering you something, your perspective on a business model, I've been taking to my engineering company, who is run by a lot of older gentlemen who are not in the current day digital media world, and offering a perspective to them of what their marketing team needs to improve. And they've been over a period of time starting to become open-minded to it, and it's all purely based on how Zach's changed my perspective of where we need to focus our energy.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, and it really is like, it's, Tyler is amazing at what he does, and I'm good at what I do, and it's those combined forces that come together that I think is been able to create us to become, successful and garner an audience not only on the podcast but also an audience with, current clientele and future clientele.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been neat. It's been awesome.
Yeah. No, that's sweet.
Yeah. So
you guys haven't fought at all?
I get it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, a fight is like, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this person is my friend.
Yeah.
So business is business, friendship is friendship, and at no point ever will will the business overtake the friendship.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
you look at it as like, for example, it's like, all right, well, why did someone react that way? Was it because maybe their dog died and you didn't know it, right? And they reacted in a way that was a representation of that, when the problem was really, really minuscule and really had no reflection on what you said.
Right.
And then you might have taken it the wrong way, but in reality, there was really no conflict to be had. It was just that person was having a shitty day.
Right.
Right? So I think when you think of it in that regard, when it's like, no, Tyler's my friend. Let me think of it as a friend.
Right.
And Tyler's not just a business partner. Tyler's not just employee of Along the Keel. Like, just as Zach's not employee of Along the Keel, Zach's just, not just a business partner. He's a friend of mine. Then I think it's easier to be like, all right, well, what is this problem? What are we actually trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
Like, why is this going on?
Yeah.
So in terms of like fought, I'd say no.
Yeah.
We haven't gone into a fight.
No.
But to put it,
Disagreements? Sure.
but also to put it simply, you're a lot more even-keeled than I am, and I get a little emotional about stupid things. And yeah, I've definitely overreacted too.
I can't see
Not
that.
not even work-related stuff. I've just had.
I can't see that. So you're gonna have to like sneak video Tyler blowing a gasket one day just so we can see that.
So much happens along the keel,
Maybe we'll start a reality TV show now.
I keep forgetting that Nick is.
He's just listening at this point.
Nick the hype man. He's just there.
Yeah.
Always just there.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Oh my god.
I will offer like one sentiment into this piece of conversation now, and it's as you guys say, it's funny as you age. So many things in your personal life as you grow older, you have to take on. As you when you get out of high school and you get on to college and you become more independent, and then post-college you're out on your own, starting as a professional, and you have to take on all these responsibilities and things and bills and so on and so forth that your parents used to take for you. But before that time, when your job is growing and being a student, basically, until you get to a certain age, like you do all of that yourself. And then you get out into the professional world and you have to be a part of a team. And, you have to learn how to let go to a certain degree. And I think that's one thing that, at least for me, with chasing tides and with working so intimately with two very close friends of mine, and Tim and Ryan, is part of growing this business has been each of us learning how to let go and allow each other to do what we do as individuals best for the betterment of the team. And that is difficult. And I'll speak personally like that. I very much like to have control, and I almost always have like a vision of certain things, but there are just some things that I can't do as well as Tim and Ryan do. And I need them. And I think that the reason that we work so well together is that we complement each other in very different ways. But it's just that, to the original question of what have we learned from going from the magazine to trying to launch this thing full time is dude, there's three of us. Just let go and let each other do our own thing and let that come together harmoniously into trying to build this thing. And I think, I hope for anyone trying to go out and start something out of nothing, especially if they're doing it with more people than just themselves, that would be a piece of advice that I would give, is just like have faith in the people around you and allow them to be good and allow them to make you good and allow them to make the team or the entity good.
Yeah,
That was
100%, Nick.
that was good, Nick.
Hey, thanks. I'm signing off. I'll catch you guys later. Not really. I'm still here.
No, you bring up a great point. I mean, I think it's like, know what you're good at, know what you could improve on, and if knowing what you could improve on is done better by someone else, then let that person take charge. You know, like, I think even tonight is a great fit for like what Tyler and I are both good at. You know, Tyler was like, hey, what can we do to get this podcast going, right? And most of the time, you know, he's always running lights, cameras. I'm focused on audio when we're on scene because that's my thing. He's the video guy. But tonight, we've done plenty of them, and it's not like it's rocket science to set up the audio. It's like, I'm going to go set up the podcast. It's like, roger that. I'm going to get, food and everything prepped up there, make sure that we can get things rolling. And that way, when we're ready to start the podcast, like, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're a team, know your roles, and just execute.
Yeah.
Like, stop thinking about it. Just freaking get the job done.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the food, by the way.
Yeah. Welcome.
It's good.
Welcome. Thanks for setting up the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for setting up the podcast.
Of course. It's been a blast.
It has been a blast.
See, it hasn't been that bad, right?
No, it's pitch black out. I can't see the 3 cameras looking at us. That's made it a lot easier. I got a little anxiety. I think, are any of them on right now? I don't actually know.
Yeah. I see the red lights.
I see one.
Tomato, potato.
Yeah. All I know is we changed the world tonight.
We did. 100%.
See, I learned something tonight. Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Wonder what I'm going to learn tomorrow.
You're going to learn how to get to TF Green?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
never-
never had to drive to Boston.
I never said my Dumb and Dumber quote that I really wanted to say.
Damn
it.
Yeah.
No one would have got it.
It's still rolling, so everybody heard you.
Yeah,
say
which
it.
one is this?
It was the Providence one. He's like, man, I can't believe you can't find a job in Providence unless you want to work 40 hours a week. Good old Rhode Island joke for you.
Yeah.
Good old Rhode Island.
Dumb and Dumber.
You're going to see the blue bug tomorrow.
What?
From Dumb and Dumber.
Oh.
No?
The blue
It was in the movie. The big blue bug? No? Nah, you'll see it.
Okay.
You'll know.
All right.
When you see it, you'll know. And on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsors, Narragansett.
Yeah. It's been a long day. It's been a long 48 hours at this point.
It's been along the kill.
It's been along the
It's
keel.
been along the keel.
Let us all go chase our tides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you.
earned our
I have
summer.
one more. I have one
We
more.
earned our summer.
We earned our summer.
Nick.
Way to bring all the taglines in. But what is, and hopefully I didn't miss this early on, but at the very roots of all this, Zach, like what do you want? What have you always wanted people who listen in to hear? What's the base message or couple messages? What do you really want to get across from this other than let me just be another podcast to tell a story about cool businesses out there? What do you want people to really know? What value do you want to offer to people who are listening in your heart of hearts?
I think it is to teach people how to love the ocean is one. So in doing so, my belief is that if we want to keep the ocean around in the state that it's in and to improve upon that, we need capitalism. We need someone to be able to buy products, companies that are sustainable, companies that actually give a shit. And my thought was that if we can tell the stories behind said companies and said people, people would then be motivated to be empowered to go vote with their wallet and find ways to make the ocean and their lives a better place. And then along the way, gain enough knowledge to possibly go and take that and do it on their own. That was pretty much it.
And that he's got a secret underground cricket business. That
And
you
a
guys
secret
if you guys want to invest.
black market cricket business that's running illegally.
Looking for investors.
Out of investors, possibly you.
That's good.
That's very well said, though.
Yes.
It's very well said.
No,
And
that is.
fucking cheers to the Atlantic.
Cheers to the Atlantic.
Cheers to the Atlantic.
We were all up in her today, buddy.
I wish I was too.
Nick, you are missed, my friend.
Yeah. I'm
I'll go on that boat with you.
we needed the best hog fisherman from Virginia up here.
That was me, dude.
On that note, Nick,
Zach.
I'm always elated to talk with you.
Great to be here.
Great to be here.
Thanks so much for having me, team.
You're welcome.
Killer.
Nice talking to you, Nick.
Wish I could see your smiling face right now. I hope you stay dry today.
Yeah, couple ups and downs, but
He chummed a little bit today.
A little chum.
yeah, provided.
So we are still 2 for 2 on like not stellar boat performances with Tyler. Although
Still
Today
got my
was-
sea legs.
today was much better, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's
At
plenty
least you
of time.
caught
Room
fish
for
today.
improvement,
Yeah.
but improving.
At least it wasn't blowing 40 miles an hour today. But I digress. Yeah. Fun day. Thanks for showing us around up here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for you guys coming up. It was a killer time.
It was wicked.
It was wicked.
as
You're
I-
welcome.
As I say.
It was wicked cool. You're welcome. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks. thanks to Nick for letting us have the weekend
Thanks for
off.
chiming in.
Please send us an email with your address and shirt size, and we will we'll send you a free gift. Caller 82.
I saw the $444 charge hit at the extended stay on the company credit card. So I'm going to need you guys to fucking reimburse that ASAP as a company accountant and fucking approve that charge.
Shoot, he's on to us. All right, we
One
just
gas
lost
tank.
Nick. Hit the button. To
All right, Nick. Well, we'll have to see you later.
yeah.
I think if your service is running out, we can't really hear you right now.
The mic is stop. I can't.
The camera's gonna shut off in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, anyways. Again,
Well, shit.
again. So
I'm gonna need to buy gas tomorrow. By the way.
That's what you had approval for originally. So I don't know where the hotel came in, but I'm kidding.
Oh, he's got jokes.
One gas tank, though, dude.
One gas tank only.
Oh, that's just precious. Well, this was the last episode of Along the Cable.
first and last.
First
This was
and
easy.
last.
Definitely not going to have other guests host his show ever again.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad we could flip the script.
Glad we can ruin your show. Too bad you didn't make it to 100, idiot.
Thanks for including me in it. I learned a lot today, on and off the water.
Oh,
Thanks.
it was great having Tiller on board.
Yeah, it was nice.
On and off the
Appreciate
water.
it. Taylor Gang.
Yeah, it was nice.
Well, with that, guys, shall we?
Yeah.
Shall we?
We shall.
Yep.
Nick.
You son of a bitch.
All right, I'm hanging up on you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good
Later.
night.
Night.
See ya, buddy.
And to that, good night to all.
Bye.
Bye. Holy shit, it's 11 o'clock. So are we surfing tomorrow?
This is 2 hours.
We as in you?